Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where you are in this world. This is Gloria White, and I'm calling you to action. Get on the phone. Call everybody in Washington, whether they are your representative or not. Just keep calling that Capitol switchboard and asking for another representative. And leave lots of messages for Nancy Pelosi. And call and leave messages for the White House, for Joe Biden, for his administration, for the Department of Defense, demanding that our fellow American citizens who were abandoned, absolutely abandoned, in Afghanistan, men, women, and little children. There was a family that got to the airport. They finally got to the airport, and there was nobody there to bring them out. Nobody to bring them out. What do you think happened to them? Where do you think they are? Do you think they're safe? Are they back on American soil yet? No, they're not. That's why we have to continue to make phone calls to Washington, to Nancy Pelosi, to Joe Biden in the White House. Bring them home. They didn't just leave American citizens. They left militarily trained dogs. Those people hate dogs. Those people hate Americans. They have absolutely no respect for America. Remember, death to America? Those are the same people. Billions of dollars worth of taxpayer paid for military equipment. Helicopters, Black Ops, jets, fighter jets, computers with databases full of information that they can sit there and play with until they figure out how to get in and get their hands on all that information. What will they do with it then? What will happen when they learn how to operate those helicopters and those jets? You know, I'm sure China and Russia will be happy to assist them in that. Making America more vulnerable than before we left Afghanistan with every military personnel, the men and women who serve proudly for our country. This reminds me of something else that happened that Obama allowed to happen with his non-action, allowing American servicemen and women to be captured by Iranian boats. They captured that ship, put the Americans on their knees, forced the American servicewoman to put a scarf over her head. It was for nothing more than humiliation. And this is just another one of those things. Every American needs to pull themselves up by their bootstrap and not stand for this. Don't take this laying down. They need to be called to, what's the word? They need to be called onto the carpet. They need to be called to answer why they did this way. The only reason I can think of is for humiliating the Americans in the eyes of the world. They must be so proud. They must be having a party in the White House. I'm sure Nancy Pelosi and her friends are gloating. They hate us. They hate America. Everything that they do proves they hate America. Cutting off the Keystone Pipeline. That's like the heartbeat of America. To keep your lights and gas on. To keep your cars running. To keep our factories able to build things. Make things. Do things. This Green New Deal. There's this thing called carbon credits. You heard that Bill Gates is buying up a lot of farmland. You think he's going to farm that land? Not on your life. You can bet he's not going to farm an inch of it. There's a program for them to take that land and turn it back into forest land. No food will be grown there. Humans will not be allowed in that land. But everyone that owns that land can use it as carbon credits against the pollution that they're creating. We're going to wind up with all these rich people buying up every acre of farmland to avoid the enormous tax bills that they're pressing on our farmers. Where do you think you're going to get the food that you eat? Will you get food that you eat? Will we be able to feed our families? Are they going to allow us to have that? In New Jersey, they're requiring that they register every piece of livestock, including chickens. You know why they're doing that? They say it's if there is an outbreak of some kind of disease affecting a particular livestock in their area, that they will know where to go to exterminate that livestock. No. It's so they can charge carbon tax for every cow, goat, sheep, horse, mule, donkey, every chicken, turkey, duck, quail, whatever it is that you have on your homestead or on your farm, even in your backyard. They'll be charging you carbon tax. This is the new scheme, carbon tax. This is why all the farmland is being bought up and turned back into wilderness. And no human will be allowed to go on that land. And they'll use them for carbon tax credits. No food will ever be grown in that farmland. Hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland, the breadbasket of the world, rich people want for carbon tax credits. They know it's coming. You should know it's coming too. Just be aware, they're not going to stop at livestock. There'll be a carbon tax on each child you have. They have a plan for depopulating the earth. We are nothing more than a maggot to them. We do not matter to them in the least. It's all about preserving for them and their families. It has nothing to do with helping you and your family. Don't think for a minute that the farmland that is disappearing to carbon credits will be feeding you and your family. But you can better believe there'll be farmland and livestock and chickens and ducks and quails and geese for them and their families. They have no intention of allowing us to continue to live. They don't. This sounds really harsh, doesn't it? It's a reality. You can go look up something called Agenda 2020 and Agenda 2030. You can go listen to Bill Gates. You can look at the Georgia Guidestones. You can go back and listen to Papa Bush talking about the New World Order. You can go and find a video where Obama said, people, they don't know how to take care of themselves. We'll have to do that. They just have to give up their rights. That's right. He said that. It's true. Papa Bush agreed to join the New World Order. And they have been pushing America in that direction ever since then. Bill Clinton put the teeth in that deal. Him and his illustrious wife, Hillary Clinton. Obama did everything for 8 years to dismantle our military, making America weak militarily, giving China the advantage to move up and arm themselves and build ships and ships and ships and steal our technology. Trump put a stop to that stealing. He was going to hold their feet to the fire to stop doing that, to stop stealing our intellectual material. Everything that Trump put into place to protect America and its people, Joe Biden canceled every one of those executive orders. The water, the river that was coming down into the farmland in California in this major drought, Trump rerouted it so it would go to the farmers, where Obama had routed it out to pour out into the ocean. Joe Biden has rerouted it to go back into the ocean, while our farmers in California don't have water to grow the crops. I saw where they took out hundreds and hundreds of acres of almond trees that had died. They were like 2 or 3 stories high, these trees, when they were standing. They were pulling them out by their roots. They were dead. Do you have any idea how long it takes for an almond tree to grow and produce the amount of almonds that California was producing? And it's not just olive trees. I mean almond trees. It's every kind of fruit tree you can imagine that California produces. They built warehouses on the East Coast where they're hydroponically growing green leafy vegetables. They're doing everything that they can to stop farmers and ranchers from having cattle. Oh, the methane gas. The earth is continuously putting off methane gas. Volcanoes put out more junk into the atmosphere than all the cars on the earth. It's incredible the lies that they try to tell the American people. And the American people gobble it up like it's the truth. You know why they gobble it up like it's the truth? It's the saying that if you tell a lie enough and often enough, that eventually people will accept it as the truth, even though it's a blatant lie, because people hear it over and over and over and over, and they start repeating it as the truth. Eventually, it is accepted as the truth. But it couldn't be further from the truth. Our country is being led down the path to extinction. This administration, with the grand Green New Deal, reducing the carbon footprint, let me ask you, if we have farmers in California that can't grow because there's no water, but we have farmers in Texas growing crops that are doing great, have plenty of water to water them, why is the Department of Agriculture paying them $3,800 an acre to plow those crops under? Do you know what the Department of Agriculture said? The reason for doing that is to reduce the carbon footprint. Not having enough food would certainly reduce the carbon footprint of you and me and our families. That's where they're taking us. While China is buying up food from all around the world, any and all that they can get, they're buying it up. They're stockpiling it. Do you think the silos in America are packed full? Like when Joseph prepared for famine? You know, in Matthew 24, Jesus warned us that there's going to be a famine. You know, in Revelation, that the black horse represents famine. Joseph, when the Pharaoh had that dream about the fat cows and the skinny cows, he prepared and put back and built silos and filled those full of grain to preserve Egypt and all the countries around Egypt during this 7-year famine. Famine's coming. It's written. How do you think we're going to feed ourselves and our children? Through the famine. What do you think is going to cause that famine? I'm looking at it as man-made. They say they can control the weather. We've been hearing that for a long time. We've been seeing things in our sky that are not normal. Anyone over 40 remembers what the sky used to look like. The shapes of the clouds, the color of the blue in the sky. They don't want us to talk about chemtrails. They are absolutely spraying chemicals in the air. They are absolutely using HAARP to change the weather patterns on our earth. In addition to that, we have a grand solar minimum that we're in, which absolutely affects the weather on our planet, but not in the ways that we're seeing. There is flooding in so many places, and there is drought in so many places. They're steering the weather currents. You can see the planes, the chemtrails that are sprayed prior to storms moving in, that increase the rain production. Do you think that since we know how to build desalination plants in California, that they would have been doing that all along the coast? In 2014, they were talking about it. Instead, they decided to build a bullet train to run up and down the middle of California. A bullet train versus water. Now there's no water and there's no bullet train. But billions of dollars were put into that. Where did that money go? Like so much more of the taxpayer money that's just disappeared, trillions of dollars at a time. But yet nobody in Congress has a committee that's working on finding that money. They just announce it's missing and move on to the next thing. Let's face it, our politicians have an agenda, and it doesn't really have anything to do with serving the American people. They're serving a bigger thing that has nothing to do with us. They're moving us into the New World Order. Be aware. Watch what's going on. Don't depend on the mainstream media. They are a propaganda arm of our government. I see representatives there on the House floor or on the Senate floor giving statements, talking as if they were talking to the actual House of Representatives, like they would all be there listening. There's nobody there, just that person, a few clerks, and Madam President, which is not Nancy Pelosi. No. It's a person designated to rule over the House. They're recording speeches. They're entertaining us. Oh, I don't believe in this, and this isn't this way, and this isn't that way. Really? That's great. Who heard you? Did any of your fellow House members hear you? Did they get a copy of your speech? You read it into the record for the benefit of the American people, that we would believe you were actually working on something, actually working on behalf of the American people, to move America in a prosperous direction. breadbasket of the world? Why isn't Congress denying these carbon credit scroungers denial? Why aren't they denying them the ability to eat up our farmland, to turn it back into wilderness? Who's going to feed you? How are you going to eat? How are you going to feed your family? Who's going to bring our American brothers and sisters home from Afghanistan? Who's going to bring our military dogs home from Afghanistan? Who's going to bring all the billions of dollars worth of military assets home? Who's going to do that? Not the wet noodle that's hanging out in the White House, eating taxpayer paid for food. The man is clearly mentally deficient. Why aren't they calling for the 25th Amendment and removing him from the White House? Oh, is the plan to make the American people call for that? Because the Congress is such gutless little sniveling weasels? Or is it because nobody wants laughing Kamala in the White House? Have you ever noticed any time that anyone asks her a serious question, she has this laugh before she answers the question? And most of the time, she double talks in circles and says absolutely nothing. She never answers the question. She's been put in charge of the southern border. Has she been there? No. She hasn't been there. Why hasn't she been there? Deniability. Pathetic. She is all up in arms about protecting the Afghan women and children. Where the hell was she when we left American women and children in Afghanistan unprotected? Where was she off laughing? She was off laughing somewhere, I'm certain of it. Everything is funny to her. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. We need to start praying. Repent. Ask God to forgive your sins and to turn back to us and heal our nation. He's the only one that can stop this. Otherwise, all I can say is, hang on. It's going to be a very bumpy ride. And we're on the road to redemption. It's all in the book of Revelation. I think that's where we are, people. And I don't think there's any bringing it back. But it won't hurt to try. I'm going to put the number for the Capital Switchboard in this video link, the description box. Call them. Keep calling them. Every time you think about that American woman and her 2 kids that showed up at the Kabul airport, God only knows what she went through to get there. And then there was nobody to take her home. Where are they? Where are they staying? Are they safe? Are they being fed? Have they been taken captive? Are they hostages somewhere? Don't ask Kamala and Joe Biden. This was his plan. The military didn't want to pull out this way. The Department of Defense, the generals, they advised against it. But did Joe Biden listen? No, he did not. He is absolutely incompetent. The world knows he's incompetent. You, in your heart, you know he's incompetent. Whatever Kamala may bring, is it going to be worse than what he's brought? Possibly. But we can't give up. We have to keep trying. We have to keep trying to prepare. People, if you aren't like Joseph in Egypt, preparing for the 7 years of famine, you're going to be awfully hungry. Because this government is not doing anything to protect the breadbasket of the world. The one that not just feeds us, but so many around the world. They're turning it into carbon credits. Just think how hard our ancestors worked to clear that land, to turn it into farmland, the rocks and the trees that they removed. With mules, most to begin with their bare hands and hand plows, to turn it into the breadbasket of the world. And now they're going to turn it into carbon credits. Good luck getting yourself enough food. I hope you've been putting some back, because you're certainly going to need it. I am so disappointed that we would ever have a president in the White House who would leave an American behind. Call the Capitol Switchboard and tell them, bring them home now.